This podcast is presented by Castrol Edge Euro, the #1 brand recommended by technicians in Europe. Did you know that almost 50% of European vehicles in Canada come factory filled with Edge Euro? Offer better oil. Offer your customer Castrol Edge Euro. Questions? Contact your local auto parts distributor, or Wakefield Territory Sales Manager, or customer service at 1-800-268-5339. Okay, everyone, it's your host, Andrew Ross. Now, the issue of training is one that is top of mind for anybody at the shop level. But what to train, how to train, what do your folks need that are working in the bays, and where to get it are constant questions that dog everybody who's running shops, and also of great interest to those who are directly involved with the training for our trade. With me today is Matt Shepanek, who is the president of the Automotive Training Managers Council, part of a community of ASE. Is that fair to say? They have very recently released their 2026 training benchmarks survey results. And so he's here with me on the podcast to talk about what the key findings are and maybe what we can learn to help direct our efforts on the training front. Welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Hey, I appreciate it, Andrew. Thanks for having me. I'd like to just, if I could set up just a little bit about what we do with the ASE Training Managers Council. So we've got about 120 members that are mostly training managers from across the industry. So we'll have OEM representation on it. We'll have some aftermarket representation, a little from the collision industry. And we get together on calls every once in a while, but we also do every April, we do an in-person meeting where we talk about, different trends that are happening in the industry. I present the results of this benchmarking survey that we'll go over here in a minute. But it's a great way for folks to kind of get familiar with what's happening as far as delivery technologies, different topics that are happening. We've really focused the last couple of years on AI and also on augmented reality and virtual reality training initiatives that are happening out there. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that's happening. So if anybody's interested in taking a look about what we do with the ATMC, our website is www.atmc.org. And you can certainly become a member or just take a look at the information that we have on the website.
Right. Yeah, it's super interesting to me to find out what is being said. Now, for whatever reason, it's decided to just feature me as a presenter here, which is kind of too bad. But let's just take a quick look at we have here. For those who are following along on the video, you should be seeing the survey now.
So if you go up a couple slides, the first one I really want to show is just history and the responses that we've had on this survey.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this for actually more years than it started before 2012. But you can kind of get a sense of the participation that we get in this survey. So it basically peaked in 2020, 2021. And if you remember, that was obviously the pandemic. So I always say that, there are a lot of people sitting at home and they were willing to do surveys. So our numbers went way up, and then you can see they kind of went flat for a while after that. But what was exciting about this year is that those numbers came up quite a bit. They're a little bit higher than what's currently reflected on the screen. It's about 3,000 responses, which is a good number because it really anything over 2,000 responses, we know it's going to be valid statistically. So we had a real good representation from across the industry.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. So just kind of, you ask obviously some sort of demographic questions. How do you feel about your workplace?
Right. And this one right here. So what we do, the way we do this is we kind of we try to differentiate what folks are working on. So really, we kind of bucket them into three different areas. Are you an automotive technician? Are you a truck technician? Or are you a collision repair technician? You can see on this slide, I mean, we also cover service advisors, shop managers, instructors, parts distribution. So we can capture that, but we use this data so we can filter it. Because once I have it in the tool, I can kind of drill into each of those areas, but we're mostly focused on automotive techs, truck techs, and collision technicians.
Right. And I'll note that this year, participation proportion of automotive repair technicians is very high at 71%. So they're really driving the results this year. Previously last year was 47%, and the rest divided up between managers and truck people and
Right.
instructors.
Kind of conversely, though, we went down on the truck side a little bit, and
Right,
some of
right.
this I'll take the blame on because, we have some partners that help us distribute the link for the survey,
Yep.
and I think we did pretty good on the automotive side, but we probably didn't do such a great job on the truck side. So
Fair, fair.
definitely going to work on that next year, and then also on the collision side of the business, our participation was very low, but I've been working with some folks at iCar and they're going to help me, I think, get some more participation on the collision side of the business.
Fair, all fair. Yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly for our, constituency, as it were, there'd be pretty pure results that should reflect their realities in the independent repair shops, right? As a result of, I got the shortfalls in the other areas, but it kind of helps us.
Sure.
I do find interesting that the participation in the OE dealership is very high.
Yeah, like I said, this was probably because I think we had some big OE partners like Toyota,
Mhm.
and I think GM maybe got it out to their technicians. So that definitely helps when they send the link out.
Yeah, yeah. It's well, it's a little tougher, a little more fragmented in the aftermarket, right? So I will say that for listeners and viewers, Matt and I did talk before, and this is North American wide participation. It's not exclusively U.S., although ASC is obviously based in the U.S. So there is very likely some Canadian participation in there, though obviously one needs to look at proportions.
Yeah, we just don't differentiate. I don't ask a question about that, but
Yeah,
I do suspect that we are getting some Canadian responses in there as
sure,
well.
sure. And you see the split for the truck segment participation here too is very high on the fleet side and
Right.
independents
So so this is truck, and then the next one will be collision,
yeah.
and then go forward another one here. And so
Aha.
we start off. We ask the ages of the technicians, and then I can kind of do a side by side comparison. So if you're looking at the slide, you'll see we compare the responses that we get from the auto techs, the truck techs, and the
Right,
collision techs.
right.
And you can see kind of the sweet spot for the age of most are, you know, on the collision side of the business. It definitely looks like it's trending a little bit on the older side. You can
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
see 55 to 64,
So there,
quite a few
the
of them. On
collision
the
is the
truck side of the,
golden or
yeah,
greenish colored bar there.
right. And then the red side is for the truck. And you can see on the truck side of the business, the majority of them are on the 55 to 64 and also 45 to 54.
Right.
On the auto side, it definitely trends a little bit younger.
Okay.
So you see on the auto techs, it kind of caps out at the 45 to 54, but also there's a lot of representation in that 35 to 44
Right. Right.
area. So this
Right.
is always kind of a good indicator of what the age of the overall workforce is looking like. Um, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's I find that kind of interesting and maybe a little surprising. That the kind of the automotive service technicians are trending a bit younger than other segments. In the industry, but it is what it is, right? Um,
Right. And then what we do, we also do a year over year comparison since we've been doing the survey for, a long time. We can kind of see if there's any trends, if anything really stands out to you, comparing it year over year. And there wasn't really anything that was a huge difference between the 4 years that we captured
right,
here.
right. Not any big shifts or anything there. Um, I do always find this interesting because when we talk about experience, it's all up here, all up in the top. More than 10, less than 20, more than 20, less than 30, and big numbers up in the 30 years or more. Obviously, somebody who's, in the 25 to 34 group doesn't have more than 30 years, not likely. But I do find it
Right.
super
Yeah.
interesting.
So yeah, I mean, I think these kind of speak for themselves. I mean, you can see that we've got a lot of folks out there with between 10 and 30 years of experience in the industry. So a lot of experience out there.
Right, right, right. And I know it's often a concern that we don't have a lot down in the lower age groups coming in, filling the funnel as it were. But there's certainly some there, and I don't know. I find it pretty interesting always.
Well, I can speak, on the ASC side of the business, we've also got, we're talking about the ASE Training Managers Council, but we also
Right,
have something else that falls under the ASE umbrella, and that's our Education Foundation.
right.
And so our Education Foundation group works with schools, in the United States, but they help these schools make sure that they are meeting set standards, and they also offer accreditation for those schools as
Right,
well.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, in Canada, we have a little different situation with our apprenticeship rules being run by the provinces and all that. But better training at the schools and is always a better thing, right? So during
So
career,
yeah, we asked the participants is basically to let us know how many employers they've had during their career, and I don't know. This one's always kind of interesting, and we compare it year over year between 2023 all the way to 2026. And you can see that, there's a lot of folks that, have bounced around a little bit. You look at that very top line, that's more than seven employers over their career. Um, it seems like the sweet spot is more down in the three and four,
hmm
but it's a good, overall comparison, and you can kind of see what the trends are year over year as well.
yeah, it's. I mean, there seems to be some degree of stability down in that, as you say, the threes. But you look the more than sevens, you've got uh, there's a lot of folks who don't stay anywhere very long. It looks like so.
Yeah, but you
That
got to keep in mind though too is that in the previous slide we saw that hey, some of these people have been around for 30 years, so
sure,
you might wind
absolutely.
up at a couple different places.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Again, it's all just part of getting a strong picture. Um, I think obviously English on the languages and Spanish, and other is,
Right.
we
So
have.
just on the ASE side, so we offer all of our tests, are obviously available in English. The
Yep.
A series of tests that's our automotive series. We also offer those in Spanish as well.
Right. Right.
So we asked this question because we kind of want to see, is that stable? How many people are saying they're using Spanish, or are there any other languages that are coming up that we need to be aware of? And what we've typically seen is about 5% Spanish participation is what we typically see on this
Yeah.
question year over
Yeah.
year.
That makes sense. Right. So for training language, basically a reflection of that. Um,
Right.
uh,
And so then this is just a question that we ask on how your pay is structured. We try to stay out of all the pay questions on this
right.
survey, but
Yep.
we do kind of want to know, like, hey, are you being paid flat rate? Is it hourly, salary? And so we kind of break that down. In this case, it was by OE folks that are working at dealerships primarily. And you can see 73% of those people are flat rate.
Yeah.
And then on the aftermarket side, it's split a little bit more. So it's kind of split between salary, hourly, and flat rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then some type of other, which is probably depending on how their plans are structured. And then on the fleet side, it's mostly hourly,
Mostly hourly.
which
Yeah.
I don't think anybody was really surprised. I mean, that's kind of the difference between these different sectors.
Right, right. I mean, this 73% at the dealer level being at flat rate is often kind of illustrative or viewed as an illustration of an issue that technicians want to get away from, which brings them to the aftermarket, which is a more fair, viewed often as a more fair compensation structure,
Yeah, I think on the next one we'll see a year over year comparison. Oh no, I didn't have that one in there, so it's some data that I have, so I can kind of take a look at
Sure,
what that looks like year over year. And I
sure.
think what it did show is that we're starting to see a little bit of a shift on that OE side, and that more and more are going to some type of an hourly
Yeah.
or a salary position, but flat rate is still the most
Still,
popular on
still
that
the
side.
kind of the bench, the standard for the fixed ops, as it were, right? So,
Right.
yeah. Interestingly enough, for the aftermarket, it's a very kind of even split between hourly and flat rate here, and salary is not too far behind, and then another, which I mean, we're catching other folks, so who knows? They might have a bit of a structure or bonus structure in there. Who knows, right? So,
Right.
um,
And
uh,
this is just a question that we have on, did you, did you have any vocational training, before you
right,
got into the industry? And
right,
you can see this question's been relatively flat for the last 4 years. So
yeah,
basically about 70% tell us that they had some prior vocational training before entering the industry, and roughly around 30% in each of these years. Like I said, it's been pretty flat, say that they have not had any vocational training.
yeah. So they've come in, even if they've come in later on. I mean, they're obviously folks who have come into the industry with some interest and or experience in training and desire to get training in something in the trades, as it were, one of a trade of
Sure.
some kind, right? So,
And then we just break it down again by fleet, aftermarket, and OE dealership, and again it's relatively steady among all three of these, right around 70%
yeah,
yes and
yeah.
30%
And who
no.
pays for training? I'm gonna zip through some of these because I don't want
Sure.
to. We're gonna make this available. Um, obviously, a lot of folks, something like more than 2/3 feel they have access to the training they need, according to the results this year, which is great.
Well, this
Uh,
one was a big shift, though. If you look
yeah,
year over year, I mean,
been
we
growing,
have
right?
been pretty steady at roughly around 56 to 59% from 2022 to 2025, where people were saying, you know, that almost 60% was saying, yeah, they have access. This year, we saw a big jump, though. It went up to almost 70%, where people are saying, yeah, I have access to it. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
I thought was a pretty positive move that happened in the
Pretty,
data.
pretty notable, yeah. And my workplace is similar, ideas here.
And
Now
then
here we
we
go.
asked,
Now here's where we're getting to the meat of the thing here.
yeah.
For lack of
So this,
access
we
to
asked the
training.
question, well, if you don't have access to the training, what are the top reasons that you don't have access? And 53% said that the right topics weren't available for them. 38% said quality of the training wasn't available, and then you got about 30% that said that they can't take time off of work. So those were kind of the top three of why they don't have access to training.
Yeah. And the same, I mean, training costs too much, 22%, and would have to travel too far at 17%, which can be kind of wrapped into also the cost, and
Sure.
time off work are all sort of related, can be very related to each other, right? If you have a shop owner who is not making time available during the work days for training, um, then all of these other factors and the cost can really,
Right. I mean, I spent a majority of my career was in the learning and development side, technical training. And I always say, like, if you're not a lifelong learner these days, as a technician, it's going to pass you by because the stuff changes so much quicker than it used to when I started off in the industry. And the cars are obviously a lot more complicated than when I started. So you
yeah.
you have to you have to be committed to it, and otherwise you won't be able to stay on top of it.
Sure. And just like you need to be committed both as the learner and both, and as the shop owner who's got, a fair bit of control over the learning journey for those who work in your bays. You got to be
Sure.
committed to it too, right? So, uh, now this one is for me, this is really, really critical to success in the training, managing and being on the training
Right.
journey is how are we doing the training? I mean, years and years ago, um, there was really only the option of hands-on training, or I guess you could read a book, or get a get a stack of VHS tapes, right? But it's really classroom, right?
I mean, I've in my career, I've kind of technicians are generally tactile learners. They learn by doing and getting their hands on things, and that's a lot of the reasons why a lot of us got into the industry is that's how we enjoy what we enjoyed doing, and that's how we learned. So what we see here is this is a we say training methods reality. So this is what they say they're receiving. So a majority are saying 15% classroom instructor led, some lab hands-on 10%, virtual classroom 12%, self-paced e-learning 13.5%. If you flip over to the next slide, we'll see reality versus wants.
Right.
So even though that instructor led is at 15.5%, we had almost 20% of the people saying, "Give me more." I want more, and that goes with the lab or the hands-on portion of it, and so you could really see that you know they want more hands-on time and more time in the shop when they are in training. I know when I was a training manager, we always tried to build our classes so that 20% of it was in the classroom and then 80% of it was out in the shop doing
Yeah.
doing exercises and applying that knowledge to different tasks.
Right, right. I mean, I don't know that it will come as a shock to anybody that this is how it shakes out, but it's a really good reminder of how important it is uh, for this hands-on aspect and whatever you're doing, even if you're a manufacturer's rep talking about product, to make sure that you've got some options there to have some hands-on components in that kind of training, regardless, right? So it's how the techs learn and how they're going to retain the
Sure.
information, right?
So if we flip over to the next one here, so this is just it's basically the same slide, but we basically look over it from 2024 versus 2025 versus 2026,
Yeah.
and you can see that that classroom instructor led it just it's always been one of the most wanted.
Right, right. Although, I should note also that although it's a little up and down, the virtual classroom online instructor led is in there, and that's something that maybe wasn't certainly at least as easily accessible. It was very expensive to have these kinds of things,
Right.
15, 20 years ago. But still, definitely not in, some ways behind, because what
I
techs are
think
doing.
that on that note, the one thing that the pandemic did do is it forced everybody to figure out how to do a better job delivering the virtual type stuff. So whether it's a
Here we
webinar
are,
or
right?
whatever, because you had no choice, right? Because people weren't coming to instructor-led classes.
Yeah,
So I think the result was that it got a whole lot better and more engaging, and it forced a lot of instructors to, figure out how to present, using that
right.
method.
Yeah,
So I think the good thing was that it got a lot better than what it used to be before.
sure, sure. Yeah,
And
I mean,
obviously there's
and
advantages with it too, because you don't have to travel when you're doing it virtual, and
I was going to
it can be
say,
recorded and all that stuff.
it's definitely something that for somebody who wants to be a lifelong learner, is important to have as a component of your learning journey, for sure, because of its accessibility and the flexibility, whether it's instructor led or whether it's live, or even if it's not live, e-learning is a tool for learning that we didn't used to have as accessibility to, and should be considered part of your mix, right? Your learning soup, if it were. So
Absolutely. Yep.
super interesting. What else? And what do we need? This is super interesting.
Right. So we broke this question. So we asked them, what topics do you need the most? And then we broke it up by auto and by truck and all that. So on the auto side, we had 63% saying we need more hybrid EV system training. Obviously, everybody went all in on EVs a couple years ago, and then the industry kind of shifted back to hybrids. So I think maybe that's caused some of this, is people want to make sure that they feel like they're still up to speed with the hybrids and EVs.
Oh, sure.
Um, Electrical electronics, that's always a hot topic, because it's one of the things that technicians I think struggle with the most. So these guys realize that they might not want to, but they've got to be up to speed on that stuff because it's in every system that's out there now.
Right.
And you
Right.
see it on the ASE side. All of our tests, we'll get this feedback sometimes. They said, "Well, I thought I was taking a brakes test, but there were a lot of electrical questions in there." Well, I mean, with ABS systems and traction control and all the ADAS stuff, I mean, it's all interconnected. So you
Right.
have to know the electrical electronics
Right.
and
It's
just
been
topic.
interesting to me in our recent discussions, on other topics, folks who are looking at getting trained on the hybrid and EV systems are finding out also that these things are really applicable to any vehicle on the road in a lot of cases, because the systems are so interconnected now. So
Yeah.
no learning is really standalone and siloed in the way that it maybe used to be years ago. So
Yeah, I agree. And then we also it was followed up by advanced engine performance, ADAS, and then automatic transmission, and also an engine performance. So that was all on the auto side. The next one I think will give us a breakdown on the truck side.
on the truck side, yeah. So,
Yeah, and you
but
can see
still,
number one was that electrical electronics.
yeah,
So, they all realize this. But then automatic transmissions, which I'm not 100% sure why that one was so important on the truck side of the business, but it was up there at about 50%. And then
right, right,
engine, at 47%, advanced engine performance, 44, and
yeah.
then hybrid EVs at 39s and
Obviously,
ADAS at 36.
yeah, yeah. Obviously, in keeping with kind of the structure of the fleet and their probably responsibilities too, right? So
Right.
it's good stuff. Collision, which we don't really look at too much, but ADAS, not a big surprise. Paint and refinish, obviously, hybrid and EV systems, and structural repair, all kind of at the same level at 44.4, and then electrical and electronic and collision estimating 22%. So these are all, not really many surprises there. I
Yeah,
don't think
not a big
so.
surprise. As I mentioned, up front, the collision representation on this survey was kind of on the low side this year. It was
Yeah,
mostly truck and automotive.
yeah. So I mean, we have participation in structured training, hours per year. Um,
Well, this is the one that I always find interesting because what concerns me is when I see that bar to the far left that says none,
None.
and we have just over 7% of all the technicians that responded to this survey, so close to 3,000 technicians, saying they don't get anything.
Yeah.
Which I find appalling because
And
it's
one
like I said, lifelong learners, and you need to be part of this industry now.
Sure. I mean, even right up to, a little, quick math here is that's 20, 35 plus percent have kind of like an hour a month or less, maybe, 9 to
Right.
16 hours per year is not a lot of training time. And
But
yeah.
then you see on the far right, you
And
see
then we've
that
got this,
18% of all the respondents came in and said they get more than 46 hours or
right?
56 hours, I'm sorry.
56 hours.
And this is probably on the automotive side, we had a lot of OE participation, and I know because that was my background when I was a training manager. And we would have a lot of classes that were a week long, so you could
Right.
basically
So there
get
you go.
40
Yeah.
hours by
Yeah.
just attending one week of a
Yeah,
class.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. You get one of those a year plus some other pickup training on through year. You very easily get up to the 56 hours.
right,
But again, it is pretty interesting. I mean, there's a big middle ground here with the 70 to 24 up to 40. But then there's this dip, 41 to 48, 49 to 56, where they're just not getting. It's interesting to me that it's not kind of a progressive slide up the range. It's kind of an
I
S
mean,
curve in here.
yeah, the sweet spot seems to really be somewhere between that 1 to 8 hours and then the 33 to 40 hours.
Yeah,
That's where a majority of the respondents came in at.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. Training
And then
24
we just
versus
kind of grouped
25.
it so we compared year over year, so 26 versus 25, so you could see if there was any big jump. It was relatively flat. We had in 2025, we had about 19% that said that they had between 1 and 8, and then this
Right.
year, we came in at that 16%. But
Yeah, yeah.
most of the year over year stuff's about the same.
About the same. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Training, yeah, again, this is basically
Well, we ask them how much have you received versus how much you feel you need.
yeah,
And so this one kind of had one of the brackets kind of jumped out, and that was the 33 to 40. So we had people saying that in the 33 to 40, only 12% of the respondents said that's what they've received. 22%, almost 23% said that's what they need.
yeah,
So they feel like somewhere in between that 33 to 40 hours is probably the sweet spot for them.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's super interesting. My workplace. We
Same
have
question. We just broke it down by OEs, aftermarkets, and fleet.
sure, sure, sure. Similar kind of idea. And
Right.
that's that for that. So I'll just leave this one kind of up here because before we kind of time out here. So, you know, from your standpoint and having done this for a number of years, Matt, what are maybe a couple of the key takeaways for somebody who's uh, either on the receiving end of training, and trying to arrange it for their shop team, or somebody who's a training manager who's really looking to make sure they put together a good plan for the year. I mean, what are the couple of the things that they should really take from something like this benchmarking survey?
Sure. Obviously the one that really stands out to me is that the techs they want more hands-on training, more instructor-led, more hands-on. They love that. Um, but I don't think that discounts the timeliness and the cost effectiveness of the virtual and the remote stuff. And like I said earlier, I think as an industry, we've come a long way with that since the pandemic. Everybody had to get better at that delivery method, during that period because that's all there was.
Right.
So I mean, from a management perspective, I would say, just be aware as you're developing training that's your folks want, hands-on exercises, the ability to go ahead and, do stuff on a vehicle, use a scan tool, run different test plans, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that was one of the things when I was a training manager, I always took away. I really tried to pay attention to what are the technicians telling us. And then I would also look at what are the topics? What are they saying that they need more of versus what they're getting? Those to me are the key takeaways. And we make this information, this is available to everybody right on our website. If you go to atmc.org, you can download it. I think I usually keep a couple years worth of this data too. So you can download that. I also upload the different presentations that we go through in our April conference, and you might find some interest in there. So definitely take a look at the website, and if you're interested in becoming a member, you can join right there on the website, and we'd love to have you come to one of our conferences in April.
Sure, and we'll put some information in the show notes on those things too, of course. Matt, this has been great, super interesting. For training managers or for techs. Obviously techs speak up. Tell those who are responsible for scheduling your training what you're looking for. Make sure they know the topics that you're looking for, so they can be communicated upstream and not be intentional about it. This is our theme for this year: is being intentional about what you're doing, not just taking what comes. And you'll end up with a better result. You get the training you need in the format that you're looking for it. But don't be afraid to kind of reach out and mix in some of that other, virtual learning too, because it's so accessible and it's much, much better than it used to be. Matt, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Thank you everyone else for listening and watching. If you're listening, this will be available on video as well. So take a look. We got all those slides we were talking about for your viewing pleasure. We'll put a link into the study too. So awesome. Everyone, thanks very much for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the podcast.
Thanks, Andrew.
You're listening to the Great Canadian Aftermarket Podcast, brought to you by the publishers of Indie Garage and Jobber Nation. Connect with us online at indiegarage.ca and jobbernation.ca, a brand of Chat Integrated Media.